The success of Halloween, something like 70 million made off a $300,000 budget, pretty much guaranteed a sequel. Carpenter didn't want to do it, and I wasn't sure I wanted to see a sequel either, since the ending of the first film was perfect as it was. Why do we need another one? But they were going to make it with or without Carpenter, so he went ahead and wrote a sequel, and gave directing duties to Rick Rosenthal, whilst also providing the music again. Apparently, Carpenter had to drink heavily to produce his script, so in other words, he was literally drunk when writing Halloween 2. The second film I have mixed feelings on. For the most part, I could do without its existence as it tampers with the open-endedness of the original's climax. Even the way it starts is so weird. It was clearly established in the ending of the first movie that Loomis wasn't at all shocked to see that Michael had disappeared. But Halloween 2, which begins immediately after the first, in fact it actually covers a lot of the same ground at the end. The film has him run downstairs and he stays in horror at the comical body-shaped dent in the front lawn. Like, why is he shocked? At the end of the first film, he made that face that I love so much, that expression that said or suggested that he knew something like this was going to happen. And now he's all, oh, he got up, oh dear. But even saying that, the opening is actually one of my favourite parts of the entire franchise. Probably not for the reasons intended by the filmmakers, but it absolutely cracked me up. The way the poor neighbour, who's been trick-or-treated all night, comes out to see what all the hullabaloo is about, and Loomis just looks at him with a killer deadpan stare, and he's just like, bitch, please, go back inside and tuck yourself in, because you don't know what death is. And then suddenly Carpenter's music comes on, a much funkier and groovier one than the originals, like a disco remix, and Loomis goes running off like he's trying to work out where the music's coming from. Then we fade and the credits start to roll, with us being treated to a different but equally cool version of Carpenter's Halloween score. The opening still makes me laugh today. It's a mixture of genuine coolness, but also hilarious funkiness. You could only make an opening like that in the 80s. There's a couple of other standout moments too. One part where Loomis and a cop chase down Michael, who crashes into a car and disintegrates in a fiery explosion, with the cop screaming at Loomis to confirm his identity. Later on, in a scene which I believe was shot by Carpenter himself doing reshoots, or so I've heard, a kid with a stereo bumps into the real Michael, and we have confirmation that it wasn't even him who burned in the car. The camera follows him walking down the street, again with that catchy theme. It's weird, isn't it, how relatively insignificant scenes can often be the ones we end up remembering the most from films. Saying that though, that's pretty much where my praise for Halloween 2 ends. I did not like this film very much. It started off strongly with the hunt for Michael and the night being the focus, but once we switched to the hospital setting for the film, it slowed down a lot and got quite boring. You would think a hospital at night would be the perfect setting for a Halloween movie, and maybe it is, but the film is a massive step down from the first film. The reliance on gore and schlock and shock makes it a bit interchangeable with the common average slasher flicks that were coming out in drones at the time, and the film just lacks the original's craft and understanding of horror, instead going for gross out effects. Michael Myers, being played in this one by Dick Warlock, looked very awkward walking around the abandoned hospital corridors, and dare I say it, kinda funny. I know it's not a popular opinion, but there you go. Halloween 2 is also the movie that birthed the Laurie is Michael's sister angle again, showing a complete misunderstanding of the original movie, whose terror is heightened by us not knowing why Michael is doing his killings. I always hated the sister thing, and it's one of the reasons this film left a bad taste in my mouth. It's definitely not the worst the franchise has to offer, and when you see sequels and sequels piling up with diminishing quality, it does make you appreciate the earlier films a little more, but this film didn't do it for me, and I was glad that Carpenter killed off Michael.